So we are back from lunch and we can continue with a recap about what we did during the campaign. Let's see how well we did. And then the program says that we will have a moderated discussion. Let's see how we did. It seems already that okay, probably we have to refresh it. Yeah, so 903 annotations have been added by 14 contributors so far. So thank you all for your contributions. And let's see who the winners are. So the gold badge goes to Arathi. Okay, you still get the silver badge, I think. This is good enough. Sorry, you're third.
But you know, 3 people were on my computer.
Ah, okay, so it's teamwork. Okay, and by clicking on your name, of course, you can see how many upvotes you made. So Arathi has upvoted 145 and downvoted none. Oh no! So that means that the automated colors were good. At the same time, I can see that the automated color detection algorithm missed a lot of colors, which is expected because I can see that Arathi at least added almost 80 new tags. So it seems that, yeah, precision is good for the algorithm, recall probably not that good. Before moving on to the moderated discussion, I would like to share this slide with you and discuss a little bit the results we got from previous color validations campaigns that we conducted in the context of the Crafted project. So far, besides the campaign involving Mobilier National images, we have organized a campaign involving collections from Prato, from the Fashion Museum of Antwerp, MOMU, and the Greek National Documentation Center. Marco has already shared the overall results and numbers. However, I think it is also interesting to see how different colors, how the tool performed with respect to different colors. And here we see that for most colors, it was quite accurate. So the colors it identified were with high precision correct. However, it did wrongly identified some specific colors, which I have indicated with orange color here, brown, gray, olive, and purple. And I think I already mentioned especially that gray, that the tool is overeager to find gray everywhere. So, of course, the results of this campaign will be analyzed and we will calculate the precision, how well it performed with respect to the specific Mobilier National collection. And yeah, so it seems that it was, as I said, quite precise, but it also seemed that it missed some important colors as well. So thank you again for participating, and I think
a question.
Sure.
Is the number of colors that are proposed limited in a way? Because I missed, for example, gold.
Yes, that's a known problem. Probably Hank can explain better why the automatic tools find it difficult to identify gold instead of yellow and silver, instead of...
No, it's okay.
Okay.
It's very, very usual.
Yeah, whatever. So yeah, basically because gold is not not a color. So it's something we perceive as human beings. We can perceive gold as something like this color, like so yellowish kind of color. It has a certain kind of reflection in it, and we perceive it as gold or a silver. But if you analyze pixels, it's impossible to get the color gold out of it. It's just not there. So that's the problem we have. Was this the question? Because actually I was being strangled by a wire.
Because
so I missed the question.
I know that in our collections we have lots of religious items that are made with a golden thread or a silver thread. So it would be, I think, important to know that it's this gold. But if
no,
it's
in fact, in the, if I remember correctly, Hank, I think in the description of the campaigns of the color validation, we specify the fact that gold and silver were perceived by the algorithm as yellow and
gray.
And gray, exactly.
We didn't take that campaign, so
So we stated that exactly to avoid misunderstandings.
Okay.
I would say also because we were focusing on gray a lot. I think also brown was a case, and this was happening most of the time. I noticed in the collection for the whole textile collections, which we used a lot of red, dark red. The algorithm perceived it as brown. I wouldn't say this is wrong. The point is that this color became brownish with the time. So this is also the difficulty. You have to understand. I mean, you are judging the objective kind of color that's been detected of, or the supposed color of this specific textile, for example. So
I think this goes with white too. It becomes kind of
gray
beige
or olive.
Beige.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So these are some of the defects. So one is the human eye interpretation of a color is not the same as a technical interpretation. So the red-brown problem is we really had put a lot of work in fine-tuning it, so that things that are technically speaking brown are still perceived as red. Another thing is the quality of the image. Sometimes the colors are too flat and everything becomes like grayish. So sometimes we even pre-processed the image to make them a bit more vivid, and then we got better results.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Irini. Raphaël has joined us? Not yet. Okay, so while we, we have a plan B. Now, but then, before I don't know, probably it's better if I introduce first the full panel, right? Before going with the questions. So today we have here 5 people, including Irini. You see only 3 of them for myself, because the other 2 are supposed to be online. I think we have Maïté already, but we don't have yet Raphaël, which is still, on time.
I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Raphaël.
Hi.
Perfect. So I think we are all here. That's perfect. So let me start with some brief introduction first. We have Vesna, Lovrić, Plantić. Plantić, sorry. Which is Director of Collections at the Museum of Arts and Crafts in Zagreb, in Croatia. We have online, hopefully, even if I don't see her. Not yet, Maïté. Okay, Maïté Mazel, which is the Director of CITEMA, the European City of Crafts, basically. This is the translation, right? Marie-Véronique Leroi, which is in charge of the linked open data strategy at the Ministry of Culture in France. And we have Raphaël Troncy, which is Assistant Professor in Data Science at EURECOM. Hi, Raphaël. Thanks for joining us online. We know that you have to leave a bit earlier, so we will try to engage you first, let's say. And then, of course, we have Irini with us. You know Irini Caldelli, senior researcher at the National Technical University of Athens, and also the coordinator of this project. So I think I will start with a specific question to Irini first, and it's about which are the lessons learned from this specific project, because I know that you run a lot of projects of this kind, but this is a specific one. There is something that you brought back home that was really, let's say, insightful for you.
Yes. So I will probably repeat something that I said also in my presentations, that there is no methodology that you can implement that fits all use cases. So we found out that we set up, for example, workflow that worked for one collection. And at the beginning we said, okay, we have it for one collection, it should work also for other collections which have similar objectives, for example, which wish to link the metadata with entities from Wikidata, and which have images for which it makes sense to extract colors. Nonetheless, we found out that the same workflow did not produce good results in other collections, and at first it was not obvious why. And then when we had a second look at the metadata and at the images, and probably some initial human feedback that we were able to receive, we found out that there were some characteristics for which we had not paid enough attention. And so then we had to revise our strategy. We found out, for example, that the descriptions in some other collections were much shorter or did not use proper language, and that affected the results. So then we should revise a strategy and apply a different annotator that did not rely, for example, on language use. And so on. Or we found out that the characteristics of the photographs were different, and therefore in some cases made sense, for example, to apply also object detection to identify the main object on a picture before applying the color identification, while in some other cases this might not be necessary. And I think that, yes, it's still only humans who can provide us this hints as to what to revise and point us to the right directions. And that's why the involvement of humans is very important. So you cannot trust blindly. AI.
This is quite reassuring. It means that we still mean something, and we cannot be replaced immediately, at least in the short term, by machines. Okay, thank you. I think I was surprised today to see. I mean, so many different things showcased. So we went from the editorial contents, the videos, and the interviews, and all the blog posts and the stories that we produced. But we saw also a lot of technology. So sometimes looking at some of your slides, I was thinking, where am I? I mean, it's a IEEE conference or something. So it was really technical in a way. So I was wondering, and this is a question for Raphaël mainly and Marie, of course, you can also jump in. In what ways can technology be leveraged to promote and preserve craft? So I think these are two different things. I mean, one thing is promoting, one thing could be preserving. So how do you think technology can be really used to promote and preserve craft? Marie.
I'm going to give an answer with my ministry hat on and say that it's not because we said technology that it has to be innovative, and I think it starts all with digitization, because if you don't digitize, you don't get the things that are available online. You can't promote it properly, and then it has to be available so that you can see it. And actually, I think we can all agree that when we speak about digitization, it's no longer just the transformation process of bringing something analog to digital. It also goes with all the metadata aspects. And I mean for the crafts, especially for the heritage parts of crafts and the métier d'art, which is the specialty of the Mobilier National, you need to get all the contexts that lead to the creation of that material, of that object. And that's all rely on the metadata aspects. And now I think we can all agree that when we speak about digitization, it also embarks this whole idea of providing high quality metadata so that you have actually the object, the digital representation of the object, but also all the relevant metadata. And so that's for the classic part, let's say, about the technology approach that can help us save, preserve, and promote the craft material. And then there is the 3D digitization, which is in a way, in this kind of situation, with those type of material, has a whole new perspective, and it's open a whole new realm of possibilities with the 3D aspect, because it's not just making things fancy so you can play with it online. It has a real purpose, because in most of the cases, heritage objects, you can't touch them because it's fragile. You have to preserve it. And the 3D aspect of it makes it that you can recreate it properly. You have the proper methodology to recreate it. It can be accessible also for people who are disabled. So there is all these aspects, and I won't give any specific apps or any classical or typical implementation of it, but I mean, if you don't have the core, the core material, the digital representation or the 3D representation, you basically can't do anything. So if I have something to promote, and I think this is something that we are trying to do with our policies at the ministry level, is to encourage the digitization with the all relevant metadata, relying on standards, and also going towards this 3D digitization.
So basically you are saying, let's start from the basics. Let's have the digital object first, the metadata connected to it, eventually a 3D representation of it. And this is the basis for further exploitation.
Further exploration that maybe don't rely on the ministry or even the institution, but then if it's there, then people can just take the benefit of it.
Raphaël, what do you think?
Thanks for inviting me first in this very good roundtable on this very fantastic project. So I will have an answer also quite complementary to what just Marie-Véronique said. I will reuse also the two words, preservations and promotion. So for preservation, I think indeed technologies can be used basically to set up those digital archives, okay, that contain, of course, digital representation of those crafts and useful metadata to be able to search for them, to find them, to explore them. And here, relying on standards, of course, probably a must. I would take a partisan hat and say that semantic web technologies are really well made for doing this sort of integration of the metadata, bringing semantics and interpretations on those metadata. And also for doing some shameless promotion of my own work, I would promote this sort of generic exploratory search engine type of interface that we can plug on top of those semantic graph that enables to explore in a serendipitous way those huge heritage. I have myself done some experiments with the silk heritage, with these days smell as well, and it proves to be very efficient. So that's for the preservation aspect. For the promotion aspect, also, I think technologies can really enable to give dedicated platforms that will showcase craft heritage in general, allowing artisans to display their work, of course, but more importantly, to share stories. And why not facilitate online sales for mass market, basically. And I think that the tell stories is crucially important for those artisans to be able to not just show craft, but explain where do they come from, the usage, etc. And maybe here we can do some fork on this promotion and having dedicated platforms that are really made as tutorial, almost online learning to basically, and I will come again to the technology soon after, to show how those crafts are remade or can be remade. The museum undoubtedly play a big role as well, with all those mobile applications that can enhance the visitor experience in showcasing those crafts. And if we come back to the pure technology side, I'm seeing also those two trends. One, which is the usage of more and more VR and AR, so virtual reality and augmented reality, also because those technologies can enable to simulate the craft production process, recreation. But also, of course, the use, like Marie-Véronique was saying, of advanced 3D scanning and printing technologies that not only can enable to create replicas of craft, but also facilitate a complete understanding of this heritage.
I was wondering if you, because we were talking about a lot about tangible heritage in a way, and Marie-Véronique was very much linked to that. But you mentioned, Raphaël, also the stories around craft. So, which to me is recollect more about intangible heritage. So, is there, technologically speaking, is there a way to, in a way, represent and preserve this intangible heritage? Do you think there are ways of I mean, a knowledge graph can, in a way, help in representing this intangible heritage, or this is something a bit more complex?
So I think we need to definitively build more and more bridges between those two worlds. Often our effect is triggered by a real world object we have seen, we have heard about, we have sometimes read about. And having starting by showing depiction of this object is of course interesting, but then what's interesting is the context around it. And that quickly fall into this intangible, indeed, heritage. And the knowledge graph enables to sort of seamlessly go through those worlds, right? Because stories are attached to objects, etc. So again, it's a useful representation for bringing the audience to these worlds.
Thank you. Yeah, Marie.
Yeah, if I can complement, I think the Mobilier has done also a great work in like showcasing the savoir-faire, the know-how, the specific gestures that are proper to the métier d'art, the artworks. And I think you can completely have this in a knowledge graph, because then you have the object, you have its historic context, but then you also have the process and the procedure for that led to its creation. And I think now more and more, and this is also why we are probably now in the context of Europeana being becoming a data space, it all makes sense, because then you are no longer seeing the object on a specific context. Like we are on the craft, so I'm going to look at picture of crafts and then browse it, doom scrolling over it. Basically, you can get to see an object and get all the knowledge that is related to that, even intangible knowledge, which is the experience maybe of the guy who made the craft, or even the specific technical procedure that leads to its creation.
Irene, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I also wanted to add something that is relevant to what was just discussed about how to capture intangible heritage and document it via digital technologies. And I followed some presentations by the Mingay project, which was a project also that dealt with crafted heritage from a rather different point of view that we did. And in order, because skills, dexterity, movement in the workshop is important in the case of crafts heritage. So I think I got this correctly. What they were doing was that they were analyzing videos and were trying to capture the gestures, the movements, automatically, different types, and then map them to a knowledge base, so to entities that describe the different movements and so on, the knowledge graph. And I think that was very interesting work, which I think they're continuing also via a new projects on other types of documenting other types of intangible heritage. Just that I found it interesting and I wanted to share this with you.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to capture that intangible, that knowledge, because it's not automatic, and I think it depends on the skills of craftsmen. Right. And I think we can't grasp that. We can like define that, or but we can't reproduce something somebody has created, because he and only he has the skill to do it in the way he does it. Although I think those videos are very a good way to know something more about the craftsman and that intangible knowledge. And I wanted perhaps to add to that you said about the digitizing and importance of digitizing process. For example, our museum was heavily struck by the earthquake 2 years ago. Yeah. So all our collections are stored and are not can't be approached. So the good thing is that most of our collections are digitized. If they were not digitized, I don't know what should we do in the future years. And this way, all our work is done with digitized objects. So we have every week or every month a collection of the month. We have workshops for children also based on the digitized collections and everything. So it's one of the good things with digitization, not to mention the fact if they are European or on other platforms, they can be approached by the whole society, by whole Europe, whole world.
Okay. Maïté, she joined now?
Oui.
Okay. Welcome, Maïté.
Bonjour.
So another question, maybe probably more targeted to Maïté and also Vesna. How can we raise awareness then about traditional crafts and their significance in the era of social media? So in this era of today, with a very digitally driven society, I would say. So which are, in your opinion, the way that we can raise awareness about? I don't know, would you want to start, Vesna, and then we go to Maïté?
Yeah, as I said just a minute before, I think the process of digitization and also the process of enrichment, whether automatic or manual, is very important. And I was very happy to be able to do that Wikidata editions. Yeah, because most of the craftsmen, I don't know if that's the case in other countries, but most of the Croatian craftsmen are not mentioned anywhere. So it was the opportunity to make them known in a broader community. So I think it's one of the great things that was done through this project, that Wikidata editions.
That's quite interesting. I haven't thought about this aspect of promotion, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, having added the name of the artist in Wikidata, it's something that, of course, gives visibility.
And yeah, and somebody mentioned, I don't know if Irene or somebody else, that there are often two or several people of the same name. And if we don't have the context, if we don't have the description and things he was doing and the time he was doing, we can do a mix-up something. So it helps a lot.
Thank you. Maïté, which is your take?
Bonjour. Alors, nous à la CITEMA, I was speaking in French because my English is not so good. Okay? It's okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
We have an interpreter here.
Donc à la CITEMA, nous, vraiment sur la question de la sensibilisation du public à l'artisanat traditionnel et son importance culturelle naturellement dans la société, on travaille vraiment, on se centre sur le thème de l'éducation, parce que pour nous, sensibiliser le public, c'est éduquer le public de 0 à 100 ans. Et dans les derniers projets sur lesquels on a travaillé et on travaille toujours aujourd'hui, c'est quels seraient les outils d'éducation qui permettent justement de sensibiliser le public. Et pour l'instant, oui.
traduire, c'est la traductrice, c'est la traduction au fur et à
Ah oui,
mesure.
c'est vrai, pardon.
Et là, c'est des petites. Donc là, elle va parler, et comme ça, tu peux faire des petites parties.
Okay, pardon.
It's true that museums are really important, play an important part in our societies. And well, what we decided to do is to focus on education mainly, because we try to make, to raise awareness for the general audience because it's, you know, the audience from 0 to 60 years old who go to museums. So our question is, what tools do we have at our disposal to do so?
Okay. Donc, là où nous en sommes arrivés aujourd'hui dans les projets, c'est à la pratique de l'artisanat, en fait, éduquer à travers la pratique. Parce que la pratique, ça nous permet déjà de nous connecter avec la matière, avec notre propre corps, et de se valoriser aussi personnellement, et aussi de rencontrer l'autre. Et aujourd'hui, rencontrer l'autre dans une société qui est à 50% de l'ordre virtuel quand même, on passe où le physique, la présence physique, elle est quand même un peu diminuée, c'est important, et de pouvoir utiliser justement l'artisanat comme média, en fait. Voilà, c'est un peu sur cet outil-là qu'on travaille. Je suis désolée, je suis un peu confuse, là, la journée est un peu chargée.
So our project today is to use the practice of craft to do so, because as you do craft, you're in connection with the material. And so being connected to the material allows you to value your personal take, and also to meet other people. And today we live in a society where the other person is very often reduced to a virtual approach. So it's important to do that. And so basically we decided to use craft as a media.
Voilà, et donc la pratique, naturellement, la pratique de l'artisanat dans l'éducation, c'est aussi revaloriser l'artisanat en lui-même, comprendre l'importance culturelle qu'elle a, la mémoire, notre histoire, notre identité, nos identités, et se rencontrer entre différentes sociétés, enfin différentes cultures, pardon.
So crafting education enables us to valorize our experiences and to know our identities better, our history better, and to meet other different cultures.
Voilà, donc ça c'est une des parties de l'éducation sur laquelle, enfin, pour nous c'est un des outils fondamentaux, pardon. Et la deuxième chose aussi sur laquelle on travaille beaucoup, en fait sur les territoires, on est en zone rurale, c'est reconnecter en fait les artisans d'art avec les agriculteurs, parce que, je vais vous laisser traduire.
And so this is why craft is a fundamental tool. And the other thing is we work in rural areas. So our goal is to connect farmers with craftsmen, craftswomen, artisans.
Voilà. Et l'idée de connecter les artisans avec les agriculteurs, c'est aussi reconnecter les publics avec avec le thème de la terre, hein, la terre sur laquelle on vit, la terre qui nous permet de nous nourrir, de respirer, et la terre qui est aussi la source des ressources naturelles qu'on utilise dans l'artisanat d'art.
And so doing so, we reconnect the public with the earth in the sense that it feeds us, that it's what makes us breathe, and it's full of resources as well.
Donc ce sont des notions qui sont importantes pour tous là, et qui permettent de valoriser les métiers de la main, donc l'agriculture, l'artisanat d'art.
And so these are important notions, and it enhances the work we do with our hands, agriculture, craft.
Voilà, donc nous poser des questions aussi sur l'environnement.
And so that's also helping us to ask ourselves questions on environmental issues.
Et puis le deuxième volet, ce sont les ressources humaines, justement, quand on sensibilise les publics par rapport au métier de la main, on sensibilise les publics par rapport justement à la transmission de ces métiers, à quoi on les apprend pas juste parce que c'est un métier, on les apprend parce que c'est nous en fait, ça nous représente, hein. C'est la vie, c'est la vie pure et dure, et c'est le corps, la présence du corps dans la vie, et naturellement l'importance culturelle de ces métiers dans nos sociétés aujourd'hui, où le corps il est très souvent mis au second plan en fait.
And it has everything to do with human resources. As we're working with our hands, these jobs are not only jobs, they represent us, our lives, our bodies as they are implied in our lives. And so it's a part of our cultural approach.
Voilà en gros un peu notre approche. On a travaillé là sur un projet qui vient de se terminer, un projet sur un programme Horizon qui s'appelle Transmaking, et qui est là dans le cadre de ce projet, on a essentiellement essayé de faire travailler les chercheurs donc du monde académique avec les artisans d'art pour essayer de comprendre en fait quel était l'équilibre entre qu'est-ce qui ressortait de ces rencontres et comment on pouvait après valoriser les métiers de la main dans le cadre du monde académique. Ça, c'était très intéressant comme recherche. Et dans le second projet, qui est un projet Erasmus sur lequel on travaille en ce moment, on travaille sur le corps comme outil d'éducation.
And so we've just finished a project gathering together researchers from the academia and craftsmen and women, and the goal was to know or to find out how we could valorize the work done with our hands in the academic world. And we've also worked on an Erasmus project lately.
Voilà, naturellement, je vous parle de la partie du corps, de la partie physique, des mouvements, des gestes, etc. Mais dans le cadre d'un CITEMA, on se connecte aussi avec des projets où le digital est important. Le digital, comme dans le projet présent, c'est aussi ce qui permet de mémoriser, hein, c'est qui permet donc de transmettre, de préserver, de conserver. Et on travaille aussi avec l'école de design de Florence ou d'autres structures en Italie sur les binômes entre artisans d'art et designers, et justement là comment les artisans ils peuvent maintenant aussi développer des objets, imaginer, inventer et développer des objets où la partie digitale entre en compte, ce qui n'est pas facile pour eux, parce qu'ils sont quand même les artisans avec lesquels on travaille très enfermés dans leur atelier, et la digitalisation leur permet aussi à eux de communiquer différemment, de toucher une autre tranche du public, et eux-mêmes de se transformer par rapport à ce qu'était le métier voilà, avant et ce qu'il est aujourd'hui, et comment le présenter, le proposer et l'enseigner aux nouvelles générations aussi. Ça, c'est sur la partie éducative, mais aussi simplement dans leur boutique, dans leur contact avec le public. On a par exemple eu un artisan qui a travaillé avec l'école de design de Florence, et ils ont, dans le cadre d'un projet, créé des objets, donc en partant des objets étrusques, des objets utilitaires comme l'huilière, la bouteille, on met l'huile d'olive dedans, ou des récipients tout simplement, qui étaient des formes vraiment étrusques, et c'était des objets qui ont été créés avec les designers, et en entrant là doucement dans la numérisation, enfin le monde digital, ils ont mis des codes qui étaient possibles de scanneriser sur les objets en céramique. Apparemment, vous en avez vu ce matin, je pense que on vous a montré les objets. Ah pardon, je vais laisser traduire.
So everything so we work mostly on everything that has to do with the body, with the physical aspect, with the gesture, but we also work, of course, on projects that include the digital part in them. So like here, this project, it's important because it helps us memorize what we do, and then in turn, we're able to pass it on and to preserve it for the future. So we've had partnerships between the design school in Florence, who worked in collaboration with artisans, and so artisans and designers worked together, and they created objects that had a digital part in them. So it was not easy at the beginning, but the digital part helped them communicate on what they were doing and maybe reach out to other types of audiences. And so very much a new approach of what they've been doing, because it included the past part, but also the present part, and also the part that is going to be passed on to new generations. So I know this morning you talked about the Etruscan project. So it's basically artisans who worked on Etruscan objects, and that included the digital part. And so they had a code, the ceramic objects had a code on them. And so if you clicked on them, you could have all the metadata that gave you an approach on their lives.
Thank you, Maïté. I was wondering if also, I don't know, Marie-Véronique or Raphaël has some ideas on how to raise awareness in this digital kind of society where social media rules. And
I can say maybe that Maïté made a very good point that it's no longer about opposing, the digital versus the physical. And I think this is something that you kind of really perfectly grasped in the crafted project. Also looking at the Michael Culture exhibition, like really how you can showcase heritage objects, craft objects, and then how it can inspire contemporary art. And I think this is really where you kind of lose this tension between physical, digital, and also heritage and contemporary. And for me, I think this is one of the perfect examples on how you can actually raise awareness of craft. Because if it's inspired to new creation, in a way, this is because you have this heritage object. It was there online. It was accessible, and then it creates a reaction and creation. And I think also another point is that all the videos that were made by the Mobilier National on showcasing the work of the craftsmen, it's also a way to raise awareness. Here today, we are speaking of a project, a digital project, project about having craft on Europeana, but we are about to visit the workshop right after that. So I think this is also one way, through the digital, we are going to the real thing in a way. And I think that if we can manage to get this connection to the object, to the texture, to the material that the craftsmen are dealing with, I think it's a challenge in the digital world. But I think we can still open that perspective and at least leave all the possibilities open for people who are interested.
No, right. I still think that it's very important to preserve in this point in a digital form the intangible heritage behind this, because otherwise, we were talking this morning, someone asked about generative AI and how can we use it to create new content. Of course, you can feed to these algorithms a lot of textile patterns or things, and you can get back some new ones. But then if you don't know how to make them really, and you completely lose this side, this is I think it's a real loss of knowledge. So I think that true. There should be a physical against digital versus digital only, but I think also at the same time as we should take care of preserving not just the tangible heritage, so transferring from the physical world to the digital world, but also the knowledge behind this creation should be preserved in some way. And yeah, one way would be the video that we realized, for example, in the. Vesna, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, because for years I've been considering and rethinking about the definition of a craftsman, because I think it's a kind of artificial division between artists and craftsmen, because there are lots of craftsmen who are designers and artists, and if we look at it in our past, in ancient Greece, Phidia, who was considered now as an elite sculptor, was considered a craftsman. And then in the Middle Ages, for example, goldsmiths, their products were leveled higher than, let's say, frescoes in churches. And only in the Renaissance period, Alberti, I think, he made the distinction between artists and craftsmen. I think there is no limit or fixed between the two. And I know, for example, the goldsmith, we made a video of Nokai. He also designed the jewelry he then produced. So he has intellectual skills and then also manual skills. So it's very, I think, difficult to divide the two. And I know because some things struck me because I was head of clocks collections, and then the same artist creation, he designed the sculpture, and then he designed the case of the clock case. It was the same person, and his work was of the same quality, and then the clock was kind of applied art or craft, and then the sculpture itself was a sculptural art. So it's something completely different from that digitizing part, but that's what bothers me a lot these days.
Thank you, Vesna. Raphaël, I know that in a while you will have to run. Some final thoughts related to promotion in the digital age? You have some ideas?
So I think here, I mean, there is already a lot happening, but indeed, I was saying earlier on that museums can play also a key role in, and they do that already, embracing new technologies to enhance the visitor experience. I believe that citizens are already eager to discover the world of crafts, and here again, in order to bridge this physical world versus the digital world, using augmented reality and virtual reality can also be very well used to just expand the outreach on what we can do with these technologies to so that the wide audience get better, more aware of everything which is done around craft. And I think also, of course, social media plays these days a key role in attracting audiences. We probably have to revisit new form of creativity for touching potentially a younger public that will also then get attracted to learn more about craft heritage. So I think there is many actions that could be used, embracing new technologies, and I have no doubt that that will actually happen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Raphaël. I mean, before, I think Irini mentioned a very interesting project, Mingay, which was an Horizon, I think it's finished now, right? It's a Horizon project that was exactly about craft and how to capture also the intangible heritage behind it. So they also made videos and things like this. I was wondering, Vesna, if you have, in your experience, met other innovative experience about the promotion of crafts and craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And what you have, and if there is some lesson we can learn from them.
Yeah, in fact, our museum has had participated and now is participating in another project. One was called, both were made within the project of Creative Europe. The first one was made in narratives, crafts and design narratives. And it, I think it took place from 218 until 21st, and then its continuation made into a platform of crafts just started a few months ago and will last until the end of 25. And it was about a collaboration between craftsmen and designers. And this first project made in those crafts and design narrative also won this year the Europa Nova 2023 award. And there were 8 cases after some residences and workshops. For me, the interesting one was the one that included designers, craftsmen, and also scientists, because the craftsman was a mansion, a stone mansion, and as each kind of stone contains different metals and minerals, the scientists analyzed the stones used by him, and after they did that, the designer made an object like a chair or table, and it contained that stone and the metal that was dominant in that stone. So like the back of the chair was in copper and then part of in stone. So it was a collaboration between craftsmen, designers, and also scientists, which was, I think, very good. And I think that nowadays, the big role of the craftsmen and craft products is to retain that local tradition, because it's, of course, we know the time of globalization, and I think that each country or region must keep its tradition. And the other thing I think is very important is that ecological aspect, because industrial products are very, I don't know, they are short lasting and replaceable. And I think that the craft production is, I think, of better quality, and then it can be mended. Like you don't need to throw away something, but you can reuse it or even mend it and use it like that.
Yeah, totally right. I always think about that first example of circular economy, where in Prato with the recycling of textile and fibers. So it's Stracciaroli, right? Which is the name? The Hull, right? Yeah. So there are example, a craft example that go very back in time, and that are very, very actual, because they're talking about recycling, a circular economy, and this kind of stuff. And sometimes we forget about those, and we think that we are now discovering the recycling and the the circular economy. I don't know, Marie, Irini, other example that you think is worth mentioning, or Raphaël, also to you, and until you will be with us.
I was about to write, and unfortunately I have to leave.
Okay.
Because
thank you very much anyway. Thank you very much for making the time for talking with us. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, and well, long life to Crafted, because it was a very good project.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Raphaël.
I can mention for one example. We had this project, but it's also already some years old now. We have this famous tapestry of Bayeux, which is very famous because it's a kind of monumental, and we managed to have it online. I think it would reserve a kind of re-digitization, maybe some new kind of way of showcasing it better, because it's already a kind of old website. But I think identifying some of the pieces that kind of connects, like you said, art with crafts and with heritage is also a way of promoting it better, because then it really connects, like the GIF that we saw this morning, like the lady with the pearl, with some craft, etc. I think now with the society that is really fast, if you don't get things that are kind of strike the attention, it's hard to get the attention and then to see that there is a need or a focus. In a way, this is a way of how policy kind of adapts to the audiences. And I think another aspect is maybe more related to your previous question, but when there was the fire in Notre Dame, there was all the objects, the movables that were damaged, and then it raised also to the attention of the ministry and also other high-level policymakers that there is a need to reinforce the knowledge and skills in art crafts, because if we lose that, and if people from the art crafts retire, we are going to lose the knowledge and the expertise on that. So it was not a way of promoting, but really a way of reacting to a crisis and to a heritage at risk. And I think now we need probably to kind of surf also on the digital era we are in with all the social media. I like to knit, so I'm I subscribe to some Facebook groups about knitting, and I think if we can kind of find some ways of connecting art crafts in those spheres, digital spheres, you can really kind of try to reach out some new audiences. Also kind of make people aware of what it is. It's not just you are buying some clothes in some store. There is a technical knowledge behind it and a real strong expertise. And that maybe it brings also a kind of tension between public and private, because in the field of fashion that you know very well, now we have all these big brands and how they are doing it. This is more business and private entities, but it basically built on some knowledge that was a kind of shared on public schools or design school and etc. So yeah.
Yeah, true. I was also, I mean, quite struck by the example Maïté was mentioning before, so which was going totally analog in the sense that was say, okay, let's meet craftsmen and farmers and go back to the earth. And I think I find also this quite interesting. So not always to follow up on digital means, but trying to go back to the physical side of it, because at the end, crafts it's mainly physical. It's only physical. But yeah, what you were saying, it would be nice, like to have on YouTube tutorials, not only of makeup or things like this, but also on how to make, I don't know, a lamp or a chair or things like this. That would be interesting.
And I think the role of media is not so good if we think about ecology, and because they imposed us, like I read every day, these 5 types of shoes you must throw away immediately because we'll be wearing these and this and this. So you wear something for half a year and then you throw it. And I think it's, I don't know, we are not going to end up well as a planet, I think. If we behave in that way.
When you go to fashion and textile in particular, yeah, there's a big issue of sustainability, the way that things and textile and materials nowadays are made not to last, basically.
Yeah, but so, the others, the kitchen utensils and everything also, they last for 2 years and then you throw it because it's cheaper to buy a new one than to repair it, fix it.
J'aimerais. Est-ce que je peux rebondir juste?
Yeah, sure.
Juste sur ce que vous venez de dire par rapport à l'écologie et justement aussi les objets.
Yeah, go on, Maïté.
Oui, je peux y aller. Donc, il y a une approche qui est intéressante. C'est un groupe qui a été créé sur WhatsApp en 2014 qui s'appelle More Clay, Less Plastic. C'est pour revenir sur les objets de cuisine, etc., les ustensiles qu'on utilise. Et je trouve que c'est intéressant parce que ça sensibilise aussi par rapport à l'environnement, par rapport aux objets usagettes qu'on utilise dans notre quotidien. Alors que les objets de l'artisanat, c'est d'abord de beaux objets, c'est des objets, on en prend soin parce qu'on ne veut pas les casser, on les utilise tous les jours, hein, une assiette, une passoire, etc. Et en même temps, ça nous responsabilise par rapport à notre consommation, par rapport à la prise de, enfin, à la valeur de l'objet, de la personne qui l'a fait. Enfin, ça retrace un peu l'histoire et l'importance de la transformation maintenant de la société. C'est-à-dire ne pas seulement penser à consommer, s'acheter quelque chose de beau, mais penser à consommer, penser à la vie, en fait. L'artisanat, ça nous ramène à la vie, ça nous ramène à nous. Donc voilà, et pour le rapport avec le digital, dans More Clay, Less Plastic, l'approche là qu'ils ont, c'est un groupe, c'est un network qu'ils ont créé, et c'était pour sensibiliser le public, donc ils ont créé ça sur Facebook. Et c'est que des céramistes, là, en l'occurrence, qui présentent des objets du quotidien qu'ils font. Et je trouve que c'est intéressant parce que ça touche un public très large et ça sensibilise sur plusieurs niveaux. Le niveau de la consommation, des valeurs de l'objet. Enfin, voilà. Je voulais juste partager ça avec vous parce que ça regroupe un peu les idées que vous avez partagées là.
Okay, I wanted to share an example with you because that's that's illustrating what you've just said. There's a group that's started on Facebook, which is called More Clay, Less Plastic, and they're dealing with everyday objects, especially kitchen utensils. And so basically they're doing very nice crafts objects that are beautiful and that we take care of because we use them every day. So that makes us more responsible. And while using it, we think about the people who actually designed them and manufactured them. So it gives more importance to their history or history in general. And so instead of consuming more, instead of buying new things, well, we use these objects and it's a way of getting back to life in a way. So More Clay, Less Plastic was created by ceramists. And again, they dealt with everyday objects to reach out to a larger audience and to make us think about how we consume things and the value of the object itself.
It's very interesting as an example. I didn't know that. I don't know, Irene, wanted to have something? In the sense that you have in mind some innovative example from the Mingay that you mentioned it. Do you think that there is around something?
No, I just wanted to say something that was described in the presentations that was done during the Crafted project, and that's Paternathon, which I think also combines somehow the physical with the digital in the sense that, as other people pointed out, of course, doing something with your hands is something in presence, and the participatory nature of crafts is something very essential to crafts heritage. But then I also like the part that the results of this procedure were posted on Wikimedia, if I'm not mistaken. And I think there are other options to make the connection with the digital, for example, also involving making a post on Facebook, or I don't know, probably you have already experimented with this, with other activities, let's say, within the Paternathons. You are the expert, of course, and but I thought that it is also very relevant.
No, it's true. The Paternathon example, like we did with Peter and Momo, was super interesting indeed. It's something that, I mean, I thought I would be able to do that, so I went there and I followed the crash course on pattern making. But then, frankly, it's something that probably, I mean, you should be a bit more skilled to do. I wasn't really able to follow up, but there were a lot of people there that instead they have already some background in this, and they were doing amazing work. The thing that now Momo is exploring with also a startup company in Antwerp is to once you have this paper pattern, to digitize them, make it in vectoral format, so that then you can either send it directly to the cutting machine that are actually, you know, cutting the pieces so that you can sew through them, or also creating from them 3D models. So mounting them together, assembling them back together in a 3D shape, let's say, and then eventually printing them in 3D. So these are, I mean, from there, once you have it in a digital format, you can then exploit a bit more things in a way that, so yeah, it was actually very, very interesting. I don't know, since we have a lot of experience here in the room, is there, I mean, do you have some experience or initiative or project that you think is worth mentioning in terms of how to promote craft and craftsmanship? There's something more, or basically we analyzed everything here. I think we have, I've heard about already quite few experiences that in Mingai I knew it, but the one that has been mentioned before, more clay, less plastic, right? Something I didn't know.
Actually, there's this project with Piraeus Banking. It's funded by a private bank in Greece that is mainly funding traditional technology more and less crafts. But we have had some very nice 3D visualizations of equipment and of procedures. And there are some small museums in Greece, either that have to do with marble sculpting or with mastic processing, exactly. And these are also in the Mingai project as well, but from different providers. And yeah, I think 3D depictions of the equipment and the machines that are being used are quite interesting right now.
Yeah, I think the Piraeus Bank in
PIOP.
the Piraeus Bank, yeah, the archive of the Piraeus Bank is also in the Mingai project. So they're also behind this.
They collaborate, but they're slightly different as well.
No, of course, yeah.
We're expecting some 3D material
Content coming from them, huh?
From them, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, thank you.
From us.
Yeah.
Thanks. I can say something about maybe art history, or from art history perspective. I think that there is a more and more appreciation of crafts now when you see the what are the articles in art history journals, for example, even by young art historians. It is connected with appreciation of the 19th century cultural heritage. And for example, the blacksmithing and and also joinery, the window making and the door making. So, and also in my city there are also some workshops on making own furniture, wooden furniture. So this is, I think, some kind of renaissance of crafts in small scale, of course, but I think it's really interesting to see it. And
I don't know if it's something that can fit the enhancement of craft. As a Textile Museum, we are based in Prato, Italy, partnered of Crafted, of course, and we are joining several European projects about the enhancement of textile heritage. But we recently joined a project with the Ministry of Culture, Italy, was financed by our government, which is quite good, but unusual. And is called Phygital, which means digital and physical access to archive. So a part of the project was to get technical information from some fragments from our ancient collection and give it to a suite of softwares like 3D CAD softwares and modeling software, so they can use this information to make a digital version, 3D model, and modeling the same pattern, the same textile on different models like, I don't know, furniture or cars or a collection of clothing. And then they also make videos and filming with an actor actually that is going to tell he comes to the museum in our archive and then passes in a virtual reality where these textiles fragments became I don't know, installation or cars or furniture. And the purpose is to tell people that also archive can be a way to have a virtual reality, and virtual reality can let you see how ancient textile can become in designer in a designer perspective. So this is a project.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just like Piotr and also the Museum of Prato, that, for example, that in some fields there is a revival of craft, like we said. Also, there was the whole trend of do-it-yourself in the social media, but it's not something that appears in all fields. For example, in architecture, in the architecture school, they are doing all their design only on the computer. So they are no longer building the mock-ups, and it's something that is less and less done. And I think we have to be careful, especially for us as a ministry, to kind of not to lose also this aspect and this tradition of it's not craft only for cultural, for textile or other stuff, it's for actually all the sectors.
And you mentioned both where you work in the Ministry of Culture. You mentioned this project funded by the Ministry of Culture. What I think Ministry of Culture in the different member states should do more is actually having, which is very easy things to do, it's not so complicated technically, is to keep a kind of directory of artisans and craftsmen. This has been done by Homo Faber. I don't know if you know the project. It's a big initiative by a foundation in Switzerland, by the way, weird, that they have been investing quite a lot of money in doing this sort of, they do also exhibition and they have a fair, but they have this kind of directory, which basically on a map can tell you here in this area, there are these shops, workshops of these artisans, and they have everything. There is leather, glass, pottery, anything. And it's quite complete. And then they also give a sort of we find it when we were doing these videos in Greece about textile and kilims and things. One of the workshops we went had this sticker on it, Homo Faber, and they were listed by the this platform, let's say. So I think that if this initiative would be done also at the national level, I think we will have a way to promote even better this because there are workshops that do sometimes amazing things, but you don't know. I mean, we went in central Greece somewhere, but actually no, it was Peloponnese actually, and basically in the middle of nowhere, and there was this workshop that were doing kilims, which were amazing. And basically the lady told us, well, we do it also on commission. So they had, I saw a kilim with with a house like a villa, and I say, what's that? I say, yeah, it's an American family that asked me to send me a photo of their houses, and they want to kill him with this, with this. So she was still doing with the traditional way of weaving killings on demand, basically. And these are things that if you don't happen to be there and know it, it's very difficult to get. I want to say something.
Yeah, just as you were mentioning that the creation of that, let's say, database of crafts within the project I mentioned before, the Made in 2 platform for contemporary crafts and design, is they are going to produce a publicly available database of crafts and crafts people. So I think only the countries involved in the project, and those are, I think, Germany, Croatia, Slovenia, and Portugal. And the other thing is that within this project, I didn't mention that each country is going to make something that is typical for it, like Croatia chose the theme of sea and sea goods, and everything connected to sea and undersea, and like traditional boats and shells and things that are in the sea. So it's, I think, very, and they are going to do workshops and residentials and everything, connecting craftsmen and designers. And it's also the way of keeping that traditional and local tradition. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very, very good in these days. It's tradition and then also ecology.
True, yeah. I don't know, Marco, there are questions eventually from the audience? No, nothing? Okay. Then probably we can wrap up here, I would say. So I will leave the floor to our coordinator just to close the, okay?
So yes, it was nice to hear that there are many other very interesting initiatives going on at a local, but also at an international level. Very nice ideas. We heard projects that put the emphasis on ecology, others that put the emphasis on the digital aspect, without neglecting, of course, as we said, the participatory and hands-on approach of crafts heritage. And so Crafted fits in within this broader landscape. Of course, as we discussed today, it has its technical aspects, its digital aspects, but also in terms of editorial, it mainly, probably, its main products revolve around online exhibitions, videos, but also all these document the result of manual work, and this should not be understated. So to conclude today, I would like to thank you all for participating in our event. Thanks again to Mobilier National for the wonderful organization and for hosting the event. And yes, probably we will meet each other again in crafted oriented or other events. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, everybody. Just to tell you that we will publish the Europeana Foundation will publish the recorded version, I don't know when, as soon as possible, on the Europeana platform. Thank you.